Welcome back. Let's talk about the Niger Delta. I've been joined in the program by the technical advisor on communication to the Bayelsa State Governor, Mr. Don Abednego, joins us, excuse me, from our Abuja studio. Mr. Abednego, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Yeah, good morning. Thanks for having me.
You know, when we call the Niger Delta, a lot of things flies through the mind of a lot of people. But of course, most prominent would be the fact that this is the goose that lays the golden egg. But with it comes with its own challenges, environmental challenges, potpourri of other challenges, including political dimensions to all of this. So let's get started with how you feel Nigeria characterizes the Niger Delta region and whether or not there's fairness in terms of intervention to the development of the region, because we've seen all kinds of agitation. And when you talk about the issue of restructuring, one of the people that's at the vanguard of it is the Niger Delta region.
Yeah, I think we can't have a better person to discuss this subject than someone directly from the Niger Delta. Incidentally, where crude oil was first struck in this country in commercial quantity and from the beginning was Ogbe land. Incidentally, that's where I come from. When you talk about the developmental challenges of the Niger Delta, we'll look at it from the level of poverty, environmental degradation, and of course insecurity. It is also true that over the years we have largely been bedeviled with issues of, youth restiveness, militancy, pipeline vandalization, etc., etc. The question that comes to mind is, what exactly has gone wrong in this country that the hen or the chicken that lays the golden hen is the one that the golden egg is the one that is forgotten? And I am here in Abuja talking with you, and what I see here in Abuja makes me feel terribly bad as a Nigerian, someone from the Niger Delta, because virtually everything that I'm seeing in Abuja here, perhaps in Lagos, in Kano, and other major cities in the country, and indeed every other state, is a product of what comes from the Niger Delta. The question on ground is, what do we have in the Niger Delta? We see so much poverty in the sense that the crude cost has come to the people of the Niger Delta because they see billions and billions of dollars being scooped away from the land and their soil. And what is coming back to them is, health challenges. It is true, therefore, that our people have lost so much interest in farming and fishing, which used to be the occupation of our people, because we see fantastic things being done with the monies that are coming from us. And our people rose up to say, no, we must ask for the right questions. What are the right questions? For equality or equity, fairness, and justice? Have we been able to get it? No. And that, of course, tells the story of how neglected and marginalized our people have been. However, over the years, some interventionist arrangements may have been done by the federal government. For example, the Niger Delta Basin Development Authority. We also have, like other regions have got, the Southside Development Commission, and of course the Ministry of Niger Delta. These three agencies or institutions, of course, they should work in collaboration with state governments within Niger Delta to see that we profile the developmental challenges of the people and give them a better lease of life. We know, everyone understands in this country, that anytime there are agitations in the Niger Delta, then Nigeria, of course, won't sleep, because the economy of virtually every sector, and indeed all states of the Federation, will collapse. But then, are we doing the right thing? And therefore, it calls forward the imperative needs for us to collaborate as government at the federal, the state, and of course multinational companies who are operating within and alongside interventionist agencies. But the story has been a very gory one, not palatable by any source for any reasonable man.
Let's stay with this for a bit and relate it to the president's assent to development commissions under this administration, which many have seen as, at best, a proliferation of agencies and multiplicity of resources that could have been allocated to one particular body, especially now that local government autonomy has been given to the local governments. So has the Niger Delta not shortchanged other parts of the Southwest, given its, on the one hand, checkered trajectory with an addition of the South-South Development Commission? Is that not going to go the same way as the NDDC if the NDDC has in the past not delivered on its mandate?
Yeah, I think what heralded the birth of the NDDC was as a result of the long cries of our people that certain injustices needed to be corrected. But we are also surprised that while we had the NDDC, we also had the Ministry of Niger Delta. These unnecessary proliferations of institutions, agencies, of governments does not in any way bring good results for our people. And I think when we hear the story of other development agencies within regions being set up, the question that comes to mind is, where would the federal government get the resources to fund those development commissions along the different regions of the country? It further undermines, our sensibility as a people that, look, the people of the Niger Delta are already complaining that they are largely forgotten, and the little money that is given to them is like a party sum from the whole chunk that is used in developing other lands. Now, what the federal government is telling us, the people of the Niger Delta, is what is not given to you now again be shared to even other regions. And that is why when you ask, when you have the northeastern, the northwestern, southwestern, etc., development commissions in the country, where will they get the monies to fund those areas? What level of independence are these states and regions having in terms of, working on the basis of true federalism? It's not there at all. And so we're saying that, look, whatever thing is gotten from the Niger Delta will be further divided, to develop other regions. Yes, fine, I want to be the big brothers, but then can't we do the right thing as a country? Because when you say you're bringing these development commissions all over, is the Niger Delta Commission doing what needs to be done as in terms of funding? And above all, what level of politics is being played at the level of national government to ensure that, look, we do the needful, we do the political will, address the critical areas of needs of our people. The challenges of our people are largely unaddressed, and that leads to the trajectory of, consistent, upheavals, of challenges, of insecurity, of poverty, of environmental degradation. Look, aside the fact that we talk about the cleaning of Ogoni land, what has the federal government and, of course, interventionist agencies actually done physical, tangible things for us to see that, look, we want to walk away from this battered environment, this curse that crude has brought to us, bringing hope for the people, building critical infrastructure like roads and bridges to ensure that we step up the educational profile of our people. Because, when people are terribly, terribly poor, like the people of Niger Delta, it's sickening to hear that the hen that lays the golden egg is the one that we're talking about being terribly poor, the poorest of the poorest in this country is the Niger Delta. And we're saying, look, we'll continue to build bridges in Abuja, we'll continue to build skyscrapers in Abuja. Look, what exactly is wrong with this country that the right things cannot be done? And so for us, we look at areas of critical interest. Let us have energy sufficiency in the Niger Delta so that our young kids and brothers and friends and wards who have been able to get some level of education and training and skills and vocational studies can, of course, start up little business to become young entrepreneurs. How can we reprofile the health status of our people? Our people are largely sickly. Look, let me tell you for free. If you carry out public health research work within the Niger Delta, you understand that cancer has taken over almost every household. There isn't an individual that resides in the Niger Delta that is not having traces of cancer, either on the skin or, internally. These are problems we'll have. So aside the mainstreaming of wanting to drive development, let us look at the critical areas of health. What are the interventionist agencies doing in terms of advancing the fight against diseases in the Niger Delta? And of course, virtually most parts of this country are having their own challenges, but the one in the Niger Delta is quite unique and quite troublesome. What have we been able to do in terms of security? Because when we do not have a safer Niger Delta, then definitely the projection the federal government has in terms of having increase in crude production so that we'll be able to drive critical development challenge areas in the country, it can be achieved. And so we're talking about, look, let us work on the side of having a stable and safer Niger Delta by building critical infrastructure in terms of security. Remember, the Niger Delta is largely riverine. What we have on ground is just the mainstream conventional policing strategies that are largely defective. We want to see that, look, these huge sums of money, these chunks of money in terms of trillions, etc., that have been given to these agencies and departments and ministries, let them go and have marine, security platforms, right, where we understand that when our people ply the routes, remember there are no roads in the Niger Delta. Much of what we have is riverine, creeks and rivulets and seas and streams, and our people are largely exposed and vulnerable to matters of crime and criminality. And that is why we continue to hype. But we as a people, we believe that, look, the time of militancy and, critical terrorist activities should be over. This time should be a moment of critical engagement, diplomatic, compromises here and there. But I think the federal government, whether we pretend or not, is not doing the right thing. But our people have exercised a whole lot of restraint to ensure that we embrace peace at all times. What can the right things be done? And the story is never palatable at all.
So we have the North, or some people in the North saying the North has been neglected, marginalized. Sounds like the South is also saying that, at least from what you are saying, so I can maybe restrict it to what you're saying, that there's a lot of marginalization and neglect in spite of what you bring to the table, as they say. So maybe we should speak about what the Niger Delta, maybe you can speak for Bayelsa State now, what you want really. Because some will say, yes, you're victims in that sense, but we also see culpability, illegal mining sites, some who seem to compromise, and I think you've touched on compromise too on the path of people there. I know the Navy talked about dismantling some of these illegal sites and the rest. So what does the Niger Delta want, particularly Bayelsa State? You talked about farming. I know there was some conversation around farming, support for the people. So speak to us about what Bayelsa State wants now and how you are approaching that future you desire.
Yeah, I think the first thing that Bayelsans and indeed all Ijaws want is to have a stable Niger Delta, and that is why investment in security becomes crucial. As a government in Bayelsa State, we understand the trajectory of events in terms of crime and criminality, and it's resolved as a government that, look, we are first going to engage in matters of bringing in all critical stakeholders to ensure that we have a safe and peaceful Bayelsa State. Yes, it's true today, because of our investment in security, crime and criminality has reduced to the barest minimum. It's not zero. We are not going to get zero, but we're going to sustain the level at which we have reached. This is so because we are not saying it. All critical stakeholders in terms of security merchandising the country, from the police, the DSS, the national security agencies, and of course the Office of the National Security Advisor, they all allude to the fact that what we have today in Bayelsa State is as a result of the right investment in security matters. Because we understand the Nigeria police, which of course driving the process of securing the state, and other sister security agencies are sometimes in serious lack. What the Bayelsa State government does in terms of provision of logistical support and also pulling away from any form of interference, showing an uncommon political will, that has yielded a fantastic idea, because the people too have been woven into the system where they show ownership and responsibility, that their lives matter, properties belonging to them, and of course critical infrastructures of the federal governments must be protected at all times. That is done. Now, we are saying that it could be made better and much more sustainable if much more investment are made in terms of, bringing in more resources. Look, our people are largely poor. Our people live on top of waters and top streams and rivulets and creeks, and therefore the money is meant to build, critical infrastructure like roads and bridges, hospitals and schools. Shouldn't just be going on the aspect of security, even though we understand that when we get it right in security, the other facets of society can just key it. But it's really biting on the state, and of course it's milking our resources. We are requesting on the federal government through the interventionist agencies to do the needful. Was it needful for them to weave into these fantastic ideas we have in terms of collaboration and partnership to ensure that when we talk about security, the funding of security, like we know that the federal government hasn't been able to do it appropriately, maybe because of theirs, whatever multiplicity of arrangements they have, led interventionist agencies like the NDDC come fully to partner with the Bayelsa State government to ensure that we tackle matters of security to a much more better level for the interest of the nation. And then in terms of healthcare, health service delivery remains a very crucial area that the Bayelsa State government is working on. We continue to build, to advance from primary health to secondary and tertiary health institutions, so that we we'll be able to deal with issues of complex surgical operations and ensuring that our people do not move from Creek A or River D's to the upland, the Niger metropolis, to have access to Medicare and Medicaid. And that is why we're saying, look, we'll continue to build the hospitals, we'll continue to train much more of health service providers, we'll have to employ much more doctors, even though we understand most doctors in the country are leaving. We're trying to make the Bayelsa environment very attractive in terms of, remunerations to health service delivery personnel. That is yielding result. But like I always say, what we need to do, because it's part of the mandate of the Niger Delta Development Commission and other interventionist agencies, to partner with the Bayelsa state government and indeed all states of the Niger Delta to ensure that matters of health are given primacy. Look, we cannot be talking about health service delivery in the Niger Delta without having, modern, contemporary health institutions and centers, having cancer research centers where we deal with issues of, the polluted environment we have, the effect of that is having on our environment, on our bodies, our health system. Remember, when the people are sick, in spite of all that, we are investing in education. We are not going to yield achieve any result. And that is why.
Yeah, my apologies. We've got the time. So let me throw this in because I remember I was part of a panel session sometime late last year, and what is the Niger Delta conversation in Port Harcourt that we had. And one of the questions I raised, and I want you to respond, on the part, there's the part of marginalization, but a lot of the FAC allocation also goes predominantly to the Niger Delta region. I think Delta states, Akwa Ibom, a couple of other states collect the highest FAC when you add the 13% derivation because of the oil revenue that comes from that region. So if you do an aggregate, you'll see that by region, though the Niger Delta collects the highest FAC, according to that record, I think it's 2022 or 2023, Niger Delta still accounted for highest dependence on FAC, a very high-level dependence. And Bayelsa seemed to be highly dependent on FAC. In fact, Bayelsa is one of those states where if you take out FAC, they are going to go belly up if it's an organization. But we know federal allocation is for all of us. So my question is, as we begin to wind down, is the monies that have even come into the Niger Delta and say to Bayelsa, how responsible have the leaders been able to utilize it to, advance the cause of the people?
Yeah, I think it's important to say that in Bayelsa State, what we are doing under the prosperity government of Governor Deidere is to show good governance. And when you look at the foundations of good governance, you talk about transparency, predictability, frugality, and of course inclusivity and political tolerance. All of that has been put to bear on ground. They are yielding very fantastic results for our people, and that's why we continue to build schools and schools, we continue to build bridges and roads, connecting the forgotten people of Bayelsa State to roads, to the upper land to roads. We are also ensuring that in terms of education, we are not just building schools. We're ensuring that we partner with critical stakeholders internationally and of course nationally to ensure that the cost of giving education to our people is taken to the very highest level. Our investments are yielding fantastic results, and that is why day in after day, year after year, you hear the national examinations conducted by Bayelsa State is rated between 1st, 3rd, 4th, and 5th at worst, and that is because it's yielding. Now we have been able to also change the pattern of education from the mainstream patterns of conventional education to vocational skill acquisition and making it compulsory for our children and wards to have, boarding schools where they have free access to food, free Medicare, Medicaid, and of course they also have the best of impartition. It's on the strength of that we have also collaborated with MultiChoice and will continue to sustain it to ensure that we have what we call Bayelsa Prime. It's first of its kind in this part of the world, and I tell you, you can stay anywhere in Bayelsa to monitor what is happening. Of course, service delivery in terms of education is fantastic, but that is in terms of impartition. What about giving back to the teachers who are delivering the service? Look, teachers in Bayelsa State are about the highest paid in the country today, and we don't play with anything in education in the state. We'll continue to do that, and I also want to mention the health service delivery in the state. Look at what is happening. When you get to Bayelsa State, sometimes you start wondering, do we have another Ukraine, or we are in the northeastern part of the country? No, that is Bayelsa. Those drones you see that are inundating this airspace in Bayelsa State are delivering health consumables to different health centers, RAC centers, where you see the primary health, secondary, and tertiary receive quick medicines, quick blood banks, and all of that. Look, what we are doing is to ensure that when we have these monies from the Federation accounts, even though it's not enough, we must be very frugal. We must be very reasonable and conscience-driven to ensure that, look, we show good governance to our people, because we can't just be crying that Bayelsa State and indeed Niger Delta are very poor. Yes, indeed, we're poor. But the resources that come in, how responsible and frugal have we been able to use them for the betterment of our people? For us in Bayelsa State, when the place like Southern Niger that was hitherto forgotten, administration after administration, the federal government is now having a road going to Proma. That's fantastic. All persons are saying there's the right thing to do. The brass people with their rich cultural history and, of course, economic base, that's never seen roads. Now that's the road that the restoration prosperity government of Governor Doedere is taking to brass, and I can tell you, let the world go there. Let Chinese move down there and see things for themselves. Ours is a transparent system. Whatever thing we're saying about us, it's just that. And when we talk about the key one that is fundamental, of course, we talk about, energy sufficiency. We have told the world that, look, the resources of the state must be plowed in areas of critical needs. And one area of that is since we are talking about building a critical economy in the state, and of course having a new entrepreneurial base, we must ensure that energy sufficiency is crucial. And that is why we have brought in the turbines. And by December this year, Bayelsa State may be the first state in this country that's
we must come in here because of time. If you can hear me, Mr. Abednego, you've raised some great points, yes. But some of them we still need to verify. I don't know how much teachers are paid in Bayelsa State that you say they are the highest paid in Nigeria. I had to do a quick search. I did not see Bayelsa anywhere close to higher. So maybe you're going to give me that fact, as well as the IGR generation of Bayelsa State. Not as impressive as you want to make it look. That's why it's highest. One of the highest states that are dependent on fact. So if we took a look at the numbers and the data, I don't think it matches some of the things you said. But how much are teachers paid that you said they are the highest paid in Nigeria before I let you go?
Yeah, you have access to data, so just
no. You claim you claim that the teachers are the highest paid in Nigeria. So just give me a number.
When you ask what are teachers paid, just go back to the national minimum wage, and you understand that Bayelsa State pays about the highest in the country. That will cascade down to what a teacher is paid.
How much is the national minimum wage? How much is the minimum wage in Bayelsa State?
Oh, it's not the Bayelsa State. We are paying over 70,000 naira, which was recommended by the federal government. We're paying more. Bayelsa State pays higher than any other state, and that tells the story of what civil servants are paid in the state. Bayelsa State civil servants are the highest
you haven't.
Civil servants in the country.
My apologies. You haven't given me a number. If it's 75, there are states that pay 80. I just needed a number, nothing to dance around. If there's a number, there's a number. If there's no number, there's no number.
The question you are asking is ambiguous, because when you say how much is a teacher paid, what level of teacher are you talking about? There are different stratas and levels of teachers in Bayelsa State, all over the country. But what's most important is the federal government has pegged the minimum wage for civil servants, and we're saying that's not enough. We'll pay more, and we're paying more. And the teachers in Bayelsa State, the NUT, National Nigerian Union of Teachers, have said that look, what Bayelsa State government is paying is fantastic. But we're saying at all times, because of the dwindling economy, we can up our game when our resources improve. And we also mentioned about IGR. Look,
Mr. Abednego, we do not. My apologies. Totally out of time. What I expected you to say, you stoked the fire, say the highest paid. What I expected you to say is that the least a teacher is paid in Bayelsa is XYZ. So it's as simple as numbers. But maybe we'll explore that conversation and bring the Bayelsa people to talk about numbers someday. But thank you. Everard Don Abednego, technical advisor on communication to the Bayelsa State government. We're going to have you back, so we'll talk numbers and data on that particular subject so that we don't throw figures all around. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I can't wait to be part of it. And thanks for collaborating with our state government to ensure that we advance the cause of development. It's a pleasure being here.